Ja, du er veldig, veldig fin, du. Du er så fine venner. Og det er litt stas når det endelig er sommer og sol. Kan vi bare slappe av litt for kjappe? Ja, det er stas. Fint og nydelig vær. Ja, det er stas. En er litt fullsjuk, den andre er litt kosesjuk. Ja, det er fint vær. If you had any idea how soft and silky her fur is, I cannot really. It's hard to explain, but it's very, very soft. I mean, cats are soft little cuddly fur balls, but she is exceptionally soft and silky, and that's why her former owners probably called her Silke. I can imagine when she was a kitten, she probably had even softer fur, but it's not like it has gotten more rigid over the years. It flies like nothing. Yeah, det är väldigt flott. I adopted this little cutie when she was about 3 years old, and now I've had her for 6-7 years. She is turning 10 in July, I think. I'm supposed to do shit today, but I'm so hungover. And I should actually be hungover tomorrow because today is my birthday. But I don't celebrate birthdays, so because I don't actually need an excuse to have fun and celebrate my existence. It's quite arbitrary. Today it's on a Saturday. This year it's on a Saturday. Another year it's on a Tuesday or whatever. But this week I wanted to on a Friday. And the reason is because I'm moving out and it's all this crap I still have to get rid of. But this I don't want to burn, or can't burn. So I'll deal with it differently. It looks a bit like a fucking mess around here, really. Kind of embarrassing. I guess I shouldn't actually be filming this. But most of this crap is going to be cleared up. The wood here, the wood here. I do actually have a huge log over there. I have several piles of that kind of wood. These are cut-offs that I actually got when I moved. The first year I moved here. Those planks are cut off from logs, and they had tons and tons of them and didn't know what to do. Like, I just basically paid for transport and I got a lot. And I've done a lot with it. I've burned quite a lot of it, but now I'm just gonna have to try to burn even more, because I have buried some that it's, unless I'm using a digger, I have to dig myself. That's quite of an effort, even though I'm most certainly quite of a digging person. So I actually need to get some of those smaller rocks that I have over there, and then I have another pile, and make this nice. And that's wood that I was gonna burn, that one too. You see, this is the exact kind of way, the surplus amount that I've had is quite a lot. And of course this one, there's still some wood back there. I need to make a massive fire. I actually did use that. This is from a fir tree, I think, if I remember correctly. No? Was it spruce? I think it was spruce, actually, now that I think about it. So I used it here as well to make the scaffold in order to be able to get up to the pipe there, because it had never been cleaned. But then there were so many holes on that roof that it's a very flimsy roof. The birds have been... there was moss on it a couple of years ago. No more, because like flocks of birds came and started pecking. I woke up one day and was just, what the F is going on? And then, yeah, the moss is gone. I'm not sure if the camera can pick it up. You might be seeing there's a bunch of grooves and like little pits, and some places there are holes. And I don't have a ladder that can be placed. I could of course use some planks, but this is a fairly steep roof as well. I don't have I'm not really sure my insurance will cover me going up there. I know the owner doesn't have any insurance here either. So, why bother? He's selling it just to, as someone is gonna just fix this, but I would honestly just tear everything down and build a new one. He's gonna have a problem selling it, a lot bigger than I think he thinks it is. I told him he will be able to sell this place very easily if he has it as if he divides it up into smaller portions so people can own and live here. But the law of this commune, or whatever you want to call it, is that if you own I think it's in acres. I might be a little bit off, but let's say if you own more than 100 acres, if the land area is tied to more than 100 acres, which this does already just by having the fields here, then you have to live there. Also, there are some regulations and stuff, like if you own fields around here and you're not managing yourself, you have to have let other farmers work the land, or at least rent it out, or what is the case. And it's actually the whole area connected to the house stretches quite far down to the road, and those hills you're seeing there, those are included. The house there is actually just has this little square by itself, and so the people who are there are actually like they're actually living in a city several hours away, but they tend to come here often in the weekends. I think I hear them. Their kids, at least, tend to be quite noisy, so it's not hard to notice when they're here. Look how green it got after all the burning, and it is where I did scorch it. The green mostly popped up, but in cases where there's moss, not so much. And where it's moss, it was a lot less char remaining from the scorching. I'm not entirely sure why, but it tends to make more ash if you burn them up. If the moss catches fire. The moss is also slightly more dangerous to catch a fire, because it can, while the grass and brush will just kind of wean over, you see here, and now the grass is back again. But the moss can fire and fire and fire, and the embers can eventually get to soil if it's dry soil, and then it can stay for days. So one needs to be a little bit, it's usually a good idea to have, you can just feel it, you just, oh, I guess this guy got a little bit unlucky, poor you, but you can just feel like now the soil is like bone dry on the top. Maybe I'll move, but I don't have to go deep, and it's 3 days ago since it's rained, so this is like, you just have to have a little bit caution. Also, a funny thing is that because the toilet in this house doesn't flush, I find it easier to just piss in a bottle. So, and then I just pour it out, and this greener spot here is where I poured it in the winter. And I find it so cool that, just by pissing around, I like to go out, especially in the summer, then I actually just walk out and take a piss. Hey, jag finner den. And I think it's so cool that you can kind of just, by existing, you change and alter your surroundings by your waste product. So like the trees here, you see they're having more grass there, especially here and over there. But as you start getting here I did not add, and you see it's mostly moss around. Now the size of the trees are all kind of concordance with the fertilization. Ooh, here's a little anti-anti. And this one is a bigger one. I think it's from, where is that hive? I kind of forgot. I think this one is quite far away, actually. I think it's possibly originating from over there. There's a bigger hive. There aren't so many big hives right around here. Because there is one behind that tree over there. No, next to that coppiced willow. But it's not a very big one, or a very old one. It came actually, I think it was the second year or so when I moved here. And now it's gotten fairly big. It's one of those several small little ant hives that I kept nurturing because they, with by helping them with material. Wow, why are so many of you guys here? There's one. Look at the size of this. And this seems to be like a fairly aggressive one, considering that it's not. Did you walk inside my arm here? Then you will get crushed. Well, ants are usually a lot less aggressive when they're just roaming around, unless they're in a hunting party, and this looks like it. We have one big one here, one big one there, several of them coming by. Yeah. Here's the path, actually. Oh, you guys are on a war hunt. Are you? No, you're not. Right. When you start seeing streams of these and they're making their own paths, then you just follow them either to their own hive or to the hive they're attacking. I'm not really sure if that's actually going on. I'm seeing several of them. Well, many of them are spiders, but I'm seeing many of them, and they seem to have a very directional course from over there towards the hive over there. So maybe that little hive of mine is about to get attacked. They're just mustering and warming up. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so this place is probably not going to get sold, even though it's going to be put for sale in a couple of weeks, because anyone who buys this place can only buy it under the condition that they live here, and that's due to the size of the area. Like, you cannot just own tons and tons of land, and so that's why I lived here. Like, he couldn't rent it out to anyone. Like, it wasn't, it would simply not be legal. And also the shape of the house, and, you know, like I said, the toilet doesn't work, and that's just one of several things. The electricity grid is extremely outdated, which may be the reason why the barn, but probably the main reason why that's why the barn went on fire. I was worried for a moment that I had actually put the barn on fire with me torching and scorching around here, and then there was something that had kind of slipped my attention and kept on going for well over a day. Oh, here's a red and a black. No, it's two blacks. Maybe there is a war party going on. Right outside the stairs where we started this video, the reds and the blacks, they're actually cooperating. The strangest thing I've ever seen. But yeah, they've done so for years. It started getting a little bit more red ants, and then at some point now there are less red ants. I'm not sure exactly where the hive originates. If they migrated, if it's a matter of enslavement, or I'm not entirely sure. But they seem to, the black ants were just commandeering many of the red ants, just picking them up and bringing them to the site where they wanted them to do stuff. So get the impression that the blacks weren't enslaved as they can very often be. I guess if you put that into context of human, it suddenly sounds a little bit worse. But yeah, ants are not too dissimilar from humans in many ways. This is a black ant. They usually, see, here's a red ant here. So the black ants, they tend to be having more into rocks and stones. I also like being stoned, so that's kind of one of the things I like about them. They don't tend to piss at you. The red ants do. They bite and they piss, and the formic acid, as it's called, can, you know, it doesn't warrant any form of paranoia, but if you're having a big hive, like yesterday I was relocating a hive, it's a very small one. Yeah, they were biting and pissing at me, but it's not really, like, you can quickly disorganize such a small hive, but bigger hives are quicker to kind of get their footing back, and their ants are usually bigger as well. And since they are more numerous, then, you know, if you start getting drenched in that piss, it starts burning your skin quite a bit. And when they bite you, they kind of lodge on so hard to you that if you just tear them off, their head remains, and, you know, the bite is still there. But if you squeeze their head a little bit, then they will tend to let go. Of course, this becomes incredibly impractical as soon as you start having like dozens or even hundreds of ants on you. And then that becomes, yeah. Then I guess you can say it's kind of painful. Um, but oh yeah. But the red ants are actually really cool. I mean, it's when they have a fire. If you light a fire close to a big one, they will often. Not always, but they will often just kind of start pissing at it. They start attacking the fire with their piss, and of course it's kind of futile. It's not like they. I'm not even sure if you can call it like a fraction of a milliliter, but they do make a stand. The whole they kind of still try to put out the fire, even though it's futile, and it's kind of impressive to watch. Not that the fire would actually pose a significant threat to their hive, but unless it is like one way to torch a hive is to pour gasoline on it. That's what many people do. I kind of detest that method, but one because it is needlessly cruel, and the other one is because it's quite unnecessary. Hey, I do. I mean, it's a waste of good gasoline. And it doesn't always work. The ants have a tendency to just simply recuperate, unless you're able to kind of, especially the red ants. Unlike this is the reason the black ants are usually the ones who are targeted for slavery by the red ants. Maybe the exception was the stairs that I was at, but one of the reasons they is because they can actually have several queens in one hive, so they can become quite numerous. That's one of the reasons they can get really big. Red ant hives. I guess I should try to find one of these days to film one of these really big ones, because they are really like this tall here, and they stretch over several square meters, and they tend to have several other bigger mounds not too far away, because the hives, even though the different queens, they are so genetically similar that they can cooperate insofar as they have the resources for it. But they do tend to have like if I remember correctly, they tend to have a kill off every spring, where they get a not was it every spring? No, midsummer I think. Like they get an excess of the queen eggs that are hatching, and then they have the queens fight it off, and either the queens are killed, or they just simply go away from the hive, but wingless. This happens a lot more with the black ones, I noticed. They tend to have, per hive, there tend to be more of them, but the red ones also have several wingless queens, and you'll see that they're queens because they're quite, like, at least twice or three times the size of, let's see if you can come here, rotate this guy. See, now that they're not by the hive, they're not so aggressive. They try to avoid danger because, you know, unless they're on a warpath. And this one doesn't seem to be on a warpath. They seem to be hunting and recognizing I'm not a very edible person. What was I gonna say? I'm just rambling, as you may have undoubtedly gathered. This video is perhaps not something, but you know, you're not really listening to me. Why would you do that? I mean, when you have such a cute little silky furry hair. I can't even film and explain how thin and fluffy her and soft her fur is. Yes, you're my kitty. Been with me to Scotland and places, and later this year, if everything goes according to plan, we'll take a trip to Ghana. That's gonna be cool. Then the cats they have there, they are usually smaller, and since you are wild and aggressive, hostile little beastie, you tend to have a problem with those bigger cats. So you can for once feel like one of those top cats. Yeah. I don't know, it's beeping a lot. Oh shit, have I been filming for 20 minutes? I have. Forgot my coffee. I need another smoke. I need my breakfast. There will be a big fire today, will it? It's hard to say. I'm feeling so crappy. How come alcohol is legal? You get so incredibly fucking screwed up by it. And that's just that when you're drinking it, then how many people have ruined their lives with, but it's so perfectly fine, you know, you can do shit, like, you can get punished for, you know, hitting some violence or stuff like that when you're intoxicated, that's fine. You know, then you're committing a crime that's causing harm to others. But why is it so that it's perfectly fine for citizens to harm themselves with alcohol, but then we put the double standards on pretty much every other drug? And where do you get the fucking logic that, yeah, you see, here's one of those that I kind of helped out. Put a bunch of coal here, and they, since the coal is quite light, they don't have a problem with, they like using it because it's voluminous, and, let's see if I can get it better. Damn, this focus isn't very... there you go. You see these little char pieces? Since it's big and it's light, they like to use that for building. So I have kind of helped them out, and then little critters and rodents that she tends to kill, I also occasionally throw by their nearby their hive so they can kind of gobble on it, but not right on the hive, because then they have a problem getting rid of it and it can cause diseases. I have been torching this place regularly year after year because they always get so much grass here. They're not affected by it by no means, but yeah, I'm just gonna finish off drug policy. What a moronic piece of state overreach. No authority has the right to come and